Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Kazazis, and I am the director of the NYC Network Group, as well as the NYC Real Estate Expo. And I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for registering for today's webinar, Tri-State Commercial's Rise to a Brooklyn Powerhouse, sponsored by Tri-State Commercial Realty. Shlomi Bagdadi is the founder and CEO of Tri-State Commercial Realty, a commercial leasing and investment sales brokerage based in Brooklyn. Tri-State was founded in 2014 and has since grown to more than 40 employees and serves a long roster of corporate clients. Most recently, the firm has expanded beyond New York by acquiring a Philadelphia brokerage that now is their subsidiary in Philly, TSC Precision. As one of the fastest growing brokerage firms in Brooklyn commercial market, Shlomi is joining us today to shed the light on the rapid growth of Tri-State has experienced and the latest trends he is seeing in the booming Brooklyn market. Welcome, Shlomi.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate the warm introduction.
We got a lot of questions here, and this is going to take about an hour. I do want to say to everybody, if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A section, not the chat section. If by any chance we're unable to answer your questions, I will copy them and I will send them over to Shlomi, and he will respond back to you after the webinar. This webinar will be recorded, it will be filmed, and we will edit it, and give us about 2 to 3 days and we'll send you out the recording. And so let's get started. Shlomi, can you start off by giving us an overview as to who is Tri-State Commercial?
Sure, absolutely. Tri-State Commercial Real Estate is a commercial advisory and brokerage firm established in Brooklyn. It's a young and ambitious company who strives to exceed its own very high expectations. We were born in Brooklyn in 2015 with a mission to serve the commercial real estate market and its customers through building its most important asset, which is its talent, its agents. So in order for us to accomplish that mission, we've thought that we have to have a plan. Rather, I thought I have to have a plan to accomplish that mission and make sure that the asset is my agents. So from day one, I thought about creating our own unique culture of caring, transparency, the feeling of I belong. And to execute that plan, you need tools. What is the best tools that are available that you need to deploy in order for you to execute on that plan? And that is technology. By doing that, basically utilizing the technology that is available in the market that customizes to our needs, we were able to improve our human efficiency and grow in just about 5 years to what you mentioned before, about a little bit over 40 people as of today. We took serious steps, carefully thought, to accomplish that progress. It's a never-ending development game, right? When you want to do this in the commercial real estate industry, the first step you need to do is basically spell out the process, the transaction process in the real estate industry in many details. And then the second step would be deploying that technology in order for you to automate it. So this way, the entire process streamlined from beginning to finish. And therefore, freeing up the majority of your agents' time in order for them to actually be what they need to be, which is industry experts. By doing that, the result will be delivering a service to your customers like no other company.
Very good, very good. And now, what areas, what are the primary areas of the market that you really focus on? Is it leasing, investments, etc.?
Yeah, we started off by focusing on leasing. There's pretty much three major sectors in the commercial leasing industry, and that is industrial, warehousing, storage, etc., the retail market, of course, and the office market. And that's what we focus on. We started focusing on investment sales recently. We've always done also investment sales, but more recently, we actually implemented that process that I was talking about earlier, meaning spelling out the steps of that process in the sales. We're now implementing it in the sales aspect of the industry.
Your topic is Brooklyn Powerhouse. Is Brooklyn your primary focus in New York City?
Brooklyn has been our primary focus in New York City since the day we began. And the reason why is, again, like I mentioned before, we had a mission, and that mission had to be measured, right? You had to accomplish that mission. You had to somehow see how your progress is. So we did not want to touch anything else besides Brooklyn until we came very close to accomplishing that mission. So today we feel very confident in our accomplishing that mission, that we are ready to penetrate other neighboring markets.
Okay.
Like, for example, we've just started operations in the Bronx about a couple of months ago. And at the moment, we're laying out the foundation to enter in Queens.
Good. Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that, like what drew you to Brooklyn market when you first founded the firm? Because right now, are you possibly looking at Long Island City because you're neighboring?
Correct. So
each other.
Right. So the way we do this is basically we create a team of experts in every market. Now, other firms in the industry, they have very limited amount of manpower that service those markets. These markets, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Long Island City, they're very large markets. You need a lot of manpower to service them the right way. And so when you talk about what drew me to Brooklyn was really the opportunity that I saw and identified back in 2012. You know, I'm a person that likes to drive around, right? So I used to drive around Brooklyn while letting myself get lost in its streets and neighborhoods. It's a beautiful city, as everyone knows, right? Without exaggeration, I think I've driven and walked through about 80% of its streets and neighborhoods. And add to that, my passion for real estate, for brick and mortar, I was able to identify back then around 2012, when the market was still developing, when those neighborhoods that you see today are pretty much like Williamsburg or Bed-Stuy or Park Slope, they were just beginning to develop, and you would see a scene of closed retail stores, shuttered gates, boarded up windows, and no sign of anyone to service those. That's when it hit me, and I identified that there is a great opportunity for me to enter such a market. Nobody wanted to touch them, or there was no available manpower to service this. And that's why I founded this firm. And from there, you know, God has been good to me and my people.
Good. It's very good. You mentioned one of your biggest catalysts for success as being your culture. What's the culture you saw to create your agents that gives them a unique environment to succeed?
Well, when you mention culture, you know, there's a lot of talk in the industry, this industry and every other industry, about culture, collaboration, right? The fact of the matter is that there is so much to it than just talk. To be able to implement culture of transparency, for example, right? There's different type of cultures, but for example, to be able to implement, I chose the transparency as one of the component of the culture that I want to instill in my company. So in order for me to do that, I had to be transparent myself with everyone that I come in touch with and everyone that I bring on board with the company, with my plans, with my vision, with my techniques, and pretty much have all my books and all my cards open on the table. So this way I instill that culture in them. And then one by one, we were actually able to achieve that through enhanced collaboration. You know, the collaboration that we have in our company and the culture that we have is you're able to improve the people around you, and in return, improve yourself. you're not only working on yourself, you're working on yourself rather through working on improving others. Commercial real estate industry is known to be a cutthroat industry. It's not a secret. So we're actually changing that. We have it is very hard to relay a message like that through just talk. In order for you to actually live it, you will need to visit our offices to see what energy is in the air. And you will see that everyone is here to help everyone else without having in mind what's in it for me, what's my split over here, what am I getting, etc.
Very good. You talked about technology when you started in the beginning of this introduction here. What is your approach to developing talent, and what role does technology play in developing talent and culture? And how did you utilize technology to get here?
Okay, so that's a few questions there. I'm going to try to touch on every one of them. So, I mean, to put it in one word, the approach that we take is education. Now, how do we do that? You asked about the role of the technology. Technology is the center point of our entire operation. Through technology, we're able to keep all our agents up with the up-to-date information of our listings, of our clients, of the tenants we're working with, of the market, etc. For example, we implemented different programs that help us stay up to date with this information. Myself, I like to learn one new thing from every person that I can come in touch with. It could be my son in school, for example, right? He come in and ask him what he learned that day, one thing, only one thing, and that's what I'd like to learn. And this is the approach that I instill in my company as well. So whenever you're able to keep yourself educated about what's around you, right? You're able to be ahead of the rest of the crowd. Now, how do you do this? You do this through using technology. There's so much information out there, right? You can read endless articles and newspapers and magazines. Like, the information is flowing everywhere. So what do? You gotta focus. So the technology that we have in place is that they focus and pretty much filter out all this information to deliver it to our agents so they stay up to date with everything that's going on. We created what's called the TSC Academy, Tri-State Commercial Academy, and that's a portal that is internal to only our company that has all the information from listing prices, all the specs of the products that we have, again, publications that are relevant to what they're doing. And we have training programs on different levels. Our mentorship never ends, actually. So we have a few structures in place. We have the structure where you can work with a team, and we have a structure where you can work independently, but still part of the team. So we're able to offer that flexibility through the tools that we have in place. When you combine training on every level, from when you are an associate that just entered the real estate world, right, and move up to a senior position, and then to a director position, and you have a training on every single step of the way, specific designated seminars at every time period, for example. Add to that the ongoing mentorship from your director that is responsible to work with you on a certain deal, for example. And add to that the technology that we put into place, you have assembled a team that is unbeatable.
Your technology, training, your tools, how do you see that shaping the future of both the tri-state and the industry as a whole that you're offering for your firm?
If you look at the commercial real estate industry as a whole, or at a macro level. There's two types of companies. The companies that focus strictly on its personal relationships with its client, the companies that have been in the business 10 years, 20 years and more. And normally those companies do not embrace technology. Matter of fact, they're not so welcoming to do that. And there's a lot of articles, a lot of data available about real estate companies that are not so acceptable to new technology. And why is that? Because the people behind those companies have the full belief that only personal relationship will do the trick. There is also the second type of companies, which is fully tech companies that only develop softwares to do exactly the opposite of the other company, which is to either minimize or eliminate the need for personal relationship in the transaction process. Tri-State Commercial believes that the commercial real estate industry will always need the personal relationship. You can never give up that personal relationship. However, you need to be efficient with your time. So therefore, you will take the technology, customize it to your needs, and that's where you're able to actually excel in this industry. So that's what we're doing. Technology, in our opinion, has never been there to replace the humans. It's only there to serve them better. So we see a future with commercial real estate firms using hybrid model where technology is implemented to improve the human efficiency.
Are you primary all commercial? Do you handle any residential at all?
Yes, we are only commercial. We do not handle any residential.
So right now, how do you see the current state of the market? How do you see the current state of the commercial market in Brooklyn?
I think the commercial in Brooklyn is pretty solid. Brooklyn is not a mature market. It's a developing market. So take for example, the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, prices did not drop significantly, right? You didn't see a drop of 40%, 50%, for example. You've seen a slowdown with the transactions. You haven't seen a stop, right? We continue to do deals. So, for example, last year we had about, in the Q1, right? If you take January to March, the Q1 of 2020, we've done about 32 deals. That was before the pandemic hit. This year, Q1 in 2021, from January to end of March, we've done about 50 deals. So if you take the Brooklyn market, you've seen an increase in leasing. You have not seen an increase in sales. In sales actually dropped. So in leasing, the industrial sector has gone up about 45%. The office sector has gone up about 25%, and the retail sector has gone up about 32%. Sales did decrease for about 33%. But overall, the activity of the commercial real estate market when talking about leasing in Brooklyn is pretty solid.
Right now, what type of deals are happening right now in your area in Brooklyn?
Believe it or not, you're going to be surprised when I say this, all kind of deals. The leading sector, yeah, it's all kind of deals. I mean, we even doing bar deals, we're doing restaurant deals, even though the food and beverage restaurant industry was hit really bad. But the leading sectors are, of course, healthcare, groceries, supermarkets, and education. And we've done deals on all those three sectors. We've just signed up a very interesting deal that is not in any of these sectors. Matter of fact, just about a month ago, in East Bushwick for an art school, Atelier, if you're familiar. It was a great transaction with the Hardy Capital, 12,000 square feet of art. This is just goes to show you that it's not only the healthcare that is booming, it's not only the supermarkets or education, obviously, but there's also other creative industries that are also doing very well.
I remember there was a very aggressive push for these small 2-family, 3-family, 4-family with a store, the small entrepreneur. Is that still like very aggressive in Brooklyn as well as Long Island City? The smaller commercials with the families, the 2 families, 3 families?
You're talking about the mixed use buildings
The
that
mixed
has,
use, yeah, the smaller mixed use. Is that still a very aggressive market?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. When you have an influx of people moving into Brooklyn, they need services, and the majority of these buildings are around multifamily towers. So when you have more people moving into an area, you need those smaller stores to service the demand. If it's a barber shop, for example, or if it's a after school program, or if it's a juice bar, these are things that actually even Amazon proof. These are things that are very vital to our community.
Very true. Very interesting. How does this differ from the Manhattan market, the Brooklyn market compared to the Manhattan market?
There's a significant difference between Brooklyn and Manhattan. Manhattan is a mature market. Brooklyn is on its way. So for example, take the vacancy rate in the office market. If you take the office market in Manhattan, it has about 470 million square feet compared to Brooklyn, 38 million square feet. There are different reports about the exact square footage, but it's about that number. So 470 to 38 million. Now, if you look at the vacancy rate there, Manhattan vacancy today in the office market stands at around 19%, where the Brooklyn market stands at about 17%. Now, this is not what really is interesting over here. What's interesting is that the Brooklyn market office vacancy rate pre-pandemic stood at about that vacancy. It was about 15, 16%. While Manhattan stood at about 10, 11%, circulated around that number. So you can see the impact that actually has, was on Manhattan market compared to the Brooklyn market. And that also tells you that Brooklyn market has kept to be very, very solid during the pandemic. Now, there's also significant difference in pricing. So for the office market in Manhattan, the average price for an office space is around $72, $74 a square foot. Meanwhile, in Brooklyn, the average is in the low 50s per square foot. And there is a very good product in Brooklyn. Now, if you look at the vacancy in Brooklyn, where you have 17% of 38 million square feet, that's not a lot of square footage to be filled, by the way. And think about it from another point. Manhattan has only about 1.6 million people. Brooklyn has 2.6 million people. And it went down, I think, a little bit now with the pandemic. People went to the suburbs a little bit, so maybe it went down for about 100,000. But still, it's 2.6 million compared to 1.6 million.
Let's talk about the pandemic, what happened with COVID. What was the impact of COVID shutdown on Brooklyn office market?
So if I was to continue what we started talking about as far as the vacancy rate, right? If it was about 15% pre-pandemic, and then you have only a 2% jump during the pandemic, you don't see much of an impact. Now, there's a variety of factors that could have caused that besides the pandemic itself. There's different demographics that are changing in different neighborhoods. So you can see retail was closing some of neighborhoods and changing to different neighborhoods. So that could have impacted also the vacancy rate of the retail. The office market during the pandemic has slowed down. People, of course, they're not in the office as they used to. So it definitely impacted the office market in Brooklyn. We have seen a slight decrease in prices in the average price per square foot. Now, when I say the average price stands around $52 square foot, I'm talking about projects that are Class A office towers. And I'm not talking about local neighborhood 4 or 5 story office building. That is a different ballgame. I don't know if you can even count that office building together with the office market. When you're talking about an office building, you're talking about 20-story building, etc. That's where you look at when you do these statistics. So that has slowed down, but not significantly. Take, for example, the office portion of Domino Sugar, the redevelopment of 2 Trees. They just announced last week that Rosenthal Wine Merchant has signed a lease for an entire floor where the asking rent price was around $70 a square foot, somewhere in the 70s. So that only tells you that the Brooklyn office market is pretty solid right now.
It's good to hear. How do you see that shaping the future of what Brooklyn's commercial landscape will be?
When you're talking about commercial real estate and Brooklyn landscape, so in order for you to put this in perspective, you got to look at the land, right? In Brooklyn, you have about 70 million square miles, where Manhattan is about 23 square miles, just for comparison purposes. So there's a lot of development going on, but I don't think it's even close to maturity. There is a lot of work to be done as far as developing Brooklyn to have all the commercial sectors that we spoke about earlier, which is industrial, retail, and office. In industrial, for example, like I said before, when it increased for about 45% year over year, there is a huge shortage in industrial right now that can be developed. And of course, office space at the same thing, only have about 38 million square feet, or we have 2.6 million people. So the pool of talent in Brooklyn that you can pick up from is huge. And that's why Amazon, for example, considered many times Brooklyn. Matter of fact, they did sign a few deals recently.
Interesting. Is Amazon showing any interest in coming back, or are they showing any interest?
Well, they were initially they were going to take in a very large
base in Long Island City.
Long Island City, right?
Yeah.
There's no talks about their coming back there. I think they changed their model, and they did take about 600,000 square feet in Brooklyn.
They okay. That's what I wanted to find out. They did.
Not in one location. They did do about 4 different deals. And Red Hook, they took about, where IKEA is close to IKEA, they took about 300,000 square feet. They took it out another 150 square feet, 150,000 square feet in East New York. So they're definitely active.
Were you involved with any of those deals?
Not yet.
Okay, soon. Is it the bigger companies doing a lot of deals in Brooklyn commercials, or is it the market accessible and increasing the popularity with smaller businesses and startups?
So what the pandemic did is that actually he brought all the national retailers into pretty much a halt, right? Where you are a huge organization, you move very slow. And especially when you don't have enough data to base your decision on. Where you are a smaller business owner, right? Even you could be regional business owner, but you have the ability to move fast and identify those opportunities that, you know what, even during pandemic, we all know this is temporary. It's going to take a year, 2 years, but this is temporary. So if I'm, as a business owner, able to negotiate a good deal with the owner, that with the landlord of the property, then why would I have to hold back my business, or why would I have to sit and wait, letting go of these opportunities? There was so many opportunities during the pandemic that a lot of regional business owners with few locations, we're talking about 5 locations, 10 locations, even 20 locations, that they were able to act fast and secure long-term leases with a very good deal and incentives from the landlord. Right now, they're looking to do those deals again, but now that we're coming out of this pandemic, thank God, the availability of these deals is not as common as it was.
Interesting. Which industries are seeing the most demand for commercial space?
Well, we're talking about this is Brooklyn, right? So we're talking about healthcare.
Brooklyn.
Urgent daycare industry is booming on a national and regional level. Of course, supermarket industry. We have right now all types of supermarkets. There's so much to talk about supermarkets, right? Supermarkets. It's not just this, when you say supermarket, it's not just one type of supermarket. There is the organic supermarket, there's a fresh supermarket, there's so many different types that this has triggered a booming industry. We have signed a lease, for example, in Clinton Hill, 500 DeKalb Avenue for 10,000 square feet for a supermarket. You have also the education, it's a leading sector. Education, daycares, we've signed a deal that's about 10,000 square feet on 1520 Fulton Street during the pandemic. During where there were a lot of talks about what regulations are going to be, what new regulations are going to be in place in regards to the daycare category. So these are the leading, but again, we have also, you also have the e-commerce business that have the household goods, pet supplies. Now that people had to stay home, they had to keep company, their pets. So somebody had one pet, now they have 2, for example.
Exactly.
The furniture, also the furniture design aspect of it, the gift aspect of it, the logistics and freight, transportation, all of that is actually booming right now.
Very, very true. We just got an extra dog and a bird.
Oh, okay. So
experience
this firsthand.
Oh, I think the bird is more maintenance than the dogs. Let's talk about Philadelphia for a moment. You recently acquired a firm there and rebranded it as TSC Precision, which is now your Philly branch. Why Philadelphia? Why did you choose Philadelphia?
Philadelphia, if you've watched it closely in the past few years, it's a healthy market that's been on the rise. We've seen a great potential in serving that market. There's a ton of development, for example, in areas like Northern Liberties, if you're familiar with Philadelphia, Fishtown, Kingston. Those neighborhoods, when I go there, remind me of Williamsburg. It's a Williamsburg of Brooklyn. It's a Park Slope of Brooklyn, Red Hook of Brooklyn. They're very, very similar. And they're now in the process that those Brooklyn neighborhoods have been few years back. So we've seen a tremendous potential in serving that market by taking our infrastructure, our technology, and partnering up with a local firm that shared our vision and shared the growth that we're going after, and saw value in the tech and the culture that we bring into their team. If we're talking about the office market in Philly, you have about 80 million square feet of office space, which is almost full. Now, when you have that much occupancy rate in an office market, that triggers the development of new office market to supply that demand. Granted, right now in Philly, you walk down the street, you see those buildings are not back to the office yet. But again, it's only temporary. This is not going to stay forever, despite the talk that you have about people working from home. You know, the concept of working from home is not new. It has always been there. I mean, companies in the US have always resorted to outsourcing cheaper labor outside of the state. So now they're doing it inside the state. So that, I don't think that concept is going to be huge in the office occupancy rate, because even if you're working from home now, companies have are going to adopt techniques like social distancing or maybe more space per employees. So you will have a balance between less employees coming to the company while fewer employees staying in the actual space, and they do need a larger square footage. Like Center City, for example, has right now about 1.2 million square feet of office space that are set to complete within the next few months, only in Center City. If you also watched closely, Chase Bank, for example, entered the Philly market in 2019. Before 2019, Chase Bank was not in that market. And so far they opened, you know, somewhere around, I don't know the exact figure, but about 30 branches. You know, so, you know, when you see companies like that entering a market like this on that scale, you understand what you have in front of you. Retail market in Philly has stood at about 10% during the pandemic. It's about 14 million square feet of retail, and only about 10%. That's not a lot, not an awful lot of vacancy in the retail market. So we're representing a few tenants in the Philly market, like grocery outlets, for example, and AFC Urgent Care. Again, goes back to the supermarket industry and the urgent care healthcare industry, and we're very, very active in that market. So Philly is a good place to be right now.
Very good. Have you noticed any synergy between the two, between Brooklyn and Philly?
Yeah, so those the outlook on the in those neighborhoods, like Fishtown, right? Like Center City is the downtown Brooklyn, for example, and lower North Philly is Red Hook, Park Slope, and there's a lot of other neighborhoods that compare. So that is the synergy that we have identified, that we can actually enter and do good service to those owners, because we know development is coming, and if you enter at the right time and you utilize the infrastructure in place, you're able to actually service that market better than anybody else.
Do you see a demand growing in the secondary cities as companies look for lower cost office space and higher quality of life for employees, while still being near large hubs like NYC and DC?
Right, so we've been seeing this trend beginning steady, but very, very slowly. So like you mentioned, what these secondary market are offering is a lot of tax incentives to office users, for example, in order for them to develop the local market. So companies will do that for two reasons. One is to save on costs, again, if that serves their purpose. And there's a major consideration in them moving to those local markets, and that is the pool of talent and the higher quality life. So basically every secondary market right now is pretty much becoming its own market because it has its own workforce, it has its own shopping experience, it has its own residential, commercial developments.
Is Philly your second office? You only have 2 offices right now?
We have 3 offices, one in Brooklyn, one in Philly, and one in Berwyn, the main line.
Okay. Do you have any plans to expand to any additional cities? And if you do so, what is your criteria when selecting these markets?
We do have plans for expansions to neighboring markets. The reason is we feel very confident in delivering the same level of service that we have been delivering so far in Brooklyn. And there is a huge demand. We have a lot of our clients asking us, for example, are you in the Bronx? Are you in Queens? Many companies, real estate holding companies, have portfolios normally. And when they do have portfolios, they have not only in one market, they have in other markets as well. So they, after they have tried us, in one market, they would like to continue working with us with other markets. And this has been the case for the past couple of years, but we were not back then as confident as now to be able to service those markets. So those neighboring markets, most of the time, after research that we have done, we saw that there is definitely a void in companies that can come and deliver the level of service that we do when you put full customized tech, for example, at full force in serving this industry. So you have to remember that we utilize advanced technology, customized solutions to our industry in order for us to be ahead of the crowd. So the criteria of people that we're looking, or companies that we're looking for at the moment, is people that share our vision, people that share that want to grow. When we come into a certain market, we want to grow, we want to penetrate the market and grow together with the local company. We're giving them everything that we have in order for us to grow them. Of course, the criteria has to be that they can fit in our culture. If take this example, the body, like a human being, is a component of 2 things, right? Is body and soul. So we have the culture as our soul and the technology as our body. Take one apart, you're dead.
Yeah, very true. Very true. We only have I think we only have 2 questions left. What are you most excited about when you look at the future for real estate, the real estate profession?
The real estate profession, it's a beautiful profession, first of all. And it's a profession that has always been and will always be. Why do I say that? You cannot produce any more land, right? There's only one earth so far, and there's only a certain amount of square miles in a certain state, certain country, etc. So you always will have the real estate transaction and the people that service the real estate transaction. Do you know when the first real estate transaction, matter of fact, happened in the human history?
The first one in the United States?
In the world.
On Earth.
On Earth.
No, not at all. I don't know.
Okay. So the first real estate transaction goes all the way back to our forefather, Abraham.
Really?
When he bought a piece of land from Ephron for 400 silver coins. Did you know this? Interesting.
No, I did not.
That's very interesting.
That is interesting. I didn't know that.
Right. So commercial real estate is here. Real estate is here. Real estate profession is here. It's not going anywhere. You only have to have the competitive advantage to stay ahead of the crowd. And that advantage, as we see, is basically through having culture powered by technology.
Very good, very good. This is actually going to conclude our little discussion here. Shlomi, tell me right now in the Brooklyn office, how many salespeople do you have working for you?
We're about 25.
25. And do you want to say anything to the audience right now if someone wants to come and work for you, Shlomi, if they want to get a job and start selling in Brooklyn? Because that is a prime location to sell.
Yeah, actually, we just moved our offices into Interested City Hub complex where we're next to the Brooklyn Nets training headquarters. Nice. Yeah, and we have state-of-the-art offices. We are looking to hire. And we have positions available at variety of levels. We have entry level, we have senior level as well. We're looking for directors as well. And the best way to do this is just go to tristatecr.com and apply through the link of hiring. But we definitely take pride in our people. We want the people that join us that they should not leave us. And we work on building those people no matter at what level you are, even if you are not an entry level, even if you are experienced or seasoned. Like I said, as far as education, it's a never ending process. And we provide that. We give you the tools to be the industry expert that you need to be and take all the noise from around you.
Hey, Shlomi, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed interviewing you. And I want to let everybody know that everybody here is going to get information on Shlomi's information on his firm, his contact information. So if you have any questions and you want to reach out to him thereafter the webinar, please do so. There will be a copy of this video. There will be an edited copy that will come out in 2 days. We will send it out to you as well as Shlomi will send it out to you with a thank you note. Once again, I want to thank you. This concludes so much, our interview. Yeah, it was a real pleasure. Yep. You take care, and want to thank everybody else that registered, and we'll see you soon. Again, take care, everybody.